Hi, welcome to Infusion Health, the podcast. I'm comedian Chris Patrick, a.k.a. Self-Proclaimed Empowerment. And I'm here with my co-host and significant other, Rach.
Hey, guys.
Now, today we got an interesting show where, as you know, we're coming up to the three major holidays left in the year. We got Thanksgiving, we got Christmas, and we got New Year's. And we have Reverend Joanne because if you don't know, a lot of people get depressed around the holidays, especially if you ever go to a bar the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, you see everybody in there. And so we got our, and as you know, me and Rach are part of the New Thought Religion. We got our Reverend Joanne, who's going to tell us how to get through the holidays and how to make the holidays better for us. Maybe if you don't want to be around your family, or if you do want to be around your family, how to get through the holidays. Reverend Joanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Well, actually, you get two of those because you're our first repeat guest, so we're going to give you another.
All right.
So, as I said, a lot of people get kind of down around the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. And basically, I want to how is the best way to get through that? Because I know some people who just hate going home for Thanksgiving, being with their family, and Christmas and New Year's. They really get down around that, and some people just want to get through it. I just want to get through it and just move on. So what are some ways, and why do you think people get like that?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to remember is that we're always at choice. And, because we were born into a certain family doesn't mean we have to spend holidays with them. And I know plenty of people who spend Thanksgiving with friends rather than with family, and especially if you have to travel and that adds stress and leaving work, et cetera. I think that Thanksgiving, it's such a great holiday. For a lot of people, we appreciate
football.
And I just think the whole idea of Thanksgiving is, and gratitude, it's such an overlooked spiritual practice.
Sure.
Because, as you said, Chris, people that are sometimes saddened and depressed around the holidays, they dread it. And I know that when we entertain an attitude of gratitude, we cannot entertain feelings of anger or fear or regret or anything like that.
Or pain or loneliness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, but what about your mom calls you up. Are you coming home for Thanksgiving? And you're like, well, no, Mom, I don't want. Oh, and then she gives you the guilt trip. Oh, you're not going to come home. Oh, the family wants to see you. And, you're just going to, fine, I'll go home.
Well, I think there needs to be a change. I think there needs to be, instead of harboring all that and then going because you're of reluctancy, I think people need to come to an element of truth. Their own truth, and then telling their truth. If it's giving you cause for anxiety, if it's giving you cause for pain, if it's giving you cause to know that there's going to be tempers raised and all that other stuff.
Or drinking.
Right.
To excess.
Then you need to know that that's not the place for you to go, and people are not going because of tempers raised, because of their family dynamics, but they're also going, and that's not the only reason why families aren't getting together. The other reason could be because of the pandemic, and the other reason is because of family members lost that made it special.
Say that again. Family
members that have been lost through death.
They're no longer there. So
right.
It's not
that made it special, So you need to know your reason why you're not going. If it's family dynamics that it's not going to be a good time for you, then you need to find for yourself how to make it special for you. Whether it's telling your family your truth and finding a different way to celebrate it so you are in gratitude.
And sometimes I think if you think about it ahead of time, like you're going to get some grief from your mom, you could say, what I'd really like to do, Mom, is I'm going to be free on such and such a date, and I'd really like to come down and just spend some time with you and Aunt so-and-so, so you can pick who you're going to hang out with.
Well, that was another thing I was going to say. Well, Aunt Katie's coming in from, so-and-so, and she'd really like to see you and Uncle and then Grandma. And he's like, man, I got to go there.
And yet maybe you can accommodate that and just say, how long are they going to be here? I'll come down Wednesday night, and we'll all go out, or we'll do this or that.
Yep.
Yeah, but Mom's cooking. I've done all this cooking, and
And if it's for family members lost, then you can build new memories. You have to have that moment of grief, and you do need to find your new happiness. Just because you've lost that person doesn't mean that happiness can't be regained in new memories.
My husband died a couple years ago, and
Right.
he was our cook. And so it's Thanksgiving time, and I've never made a turkey.
Sure.
So I'm thinking now about how do we make new memories in a different way. And my kids are easy. They don't care if we have pizza on Thanksgiving. They like to get
Right.
together, which is nice. But I think it is important to have a little ritual. And
Football.
That's true.
So moving on to the other holiday, Christmas. A lot of people get down come Christmas time. I always think it's just it's more or less like the kid, it's for the kids and all that, as long as the kids have. But I've been in Christmases where everybody's arguing, and I'm just like, oh man, this is supposed to be Christmas.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I'm going to tackle the elephant in the room for me, and that is in my belief system, science of mind, religious science, Center for Spiritual Living. We have a lot of names.
Yep.
The belief is that Jesus was the great example, not the great exception.
Yeah.
And so I squirm still about Christmas because I don't want to pretend that I'm celebrating a Christian holiday in a Christian way, because this to me is where we part ways to a certain degree. I mean, I do, I believe that Jesus set a wonderful example. And do I sometimes pray to Jesus and say, help me? Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But I also say a prayer sometimes to my mom and dad. Anybody up there that wants to help me with this, I pray to. I struggled when I was a child. I was really a deep thinker as a little kid. And I came to the conclusion that since my parents and teachers and everybody lied to me about Santa Claus, that they probably made up the whole Christmas story. And so I lived with that for a while. As a kid, I didn't ask anybody. I just kind of pondered it in my own little heart.
Okay, well let's we're gonna go back a little bit as far as Reverend Joanne's life goes. She was raised Lutheran.
Missouri Synod,
very
she was fundamental.
She was and as she was getting older, she had questions about this and that, and they told her to just have faith.
And I was raised Roman Catholic, and mine was very much the same. You believe what you believe, and that's the end of it. You don't question it.
And then later on, she became a stockbroker. She learned about science of mind and got into science of mind, and did everything to become a practitioner, a reverend, now a practitioner of science of mind. One of the things, as she talked about the elephant in the room, it's like, okay, we're going to take a look at it, and we do say, hey, if you believe in what you believe, that's fine, but this is some of the stuff that we've looked at, and you can do your own research. Jesus was born in the manger. It was a snowy night and all that. Well, actually, in Jerusalem, it's a desert. So where was the snow coming from? It must have been So they're thinking that maybe it was a sandstorm or something like that they had to go in, and then that's when Jesus was born. And I'll let Reverend Joanne.
And it was Bethlehem.
Yeah, Bethlehem. Bethlehem.
But as a kid, that really shook me up. I was thinking about that. They lied about Santa Claus. That was kind of Everybody knew that. But I was harboring this idea that they made up the whole story. And then one day I'm walking along with my sister and another friend. They're a couple years older than I am. And they're like, we know something you don't know. We know something you don't know.
Right.
I said, oh, yeah? I said, I think I know. And they said, what? And I said, there is no God. And they're like, what? What do you mean there is no God? Well, I said, they made up Santa Claus. They probably made up the whole thing. No, they said, there's a God. We're talking about, we know where babies come from. So that was just a real big relief for me. But I always question things. And this idea of, like you were just saying, Chris, about, we don't worry about what anybody else believes. I believe that everybody, no matter what your belief is,
no matter what religion,
what religion, life is immortal. I think there's a part of each of us that goes on living. And I don't think there is a judgment day, and I don't think Jesus died to save me from my sins. I think Jesus came here to maybe shake up the Jewish rituals and stuff that he thought were going amok, and to be an example about love and how you treat each other.
So with that,
and Christianity is not the only religion that shows that.
Right, exactly. That's like what Ernest Holmes said. He felt that he studied all the religions and he studied philosophy, and he said there's a thread that goes through all of them. And of course, one of those threads is do unto others as you would have them do to you.
Sure.
And Ernest Holmes, as you know, wrote the book Science of Mind. He was studying to be a priest, wasn't he?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, he was just he was curious from the time he was a kid. He was raised a Christian, but his parents were kind of more liberal in their ideas. They didn't stress the sin stuff and the hell stuff. And then as he got older, he started studying and he started talking to people about it. And even though he wasn't a minister, he would talk to people in his office. He had moved from Maine to California, and he's working in an office, and he was just talking to people about what he believed, and they just loved to hear him. And they said, could I have you over at my house and have you talk to some friends, because this is really interesting. And from there, it kind of blossomed until he was talking into a theater that wasn't used on Sunday mornings. And then people talked him into forming this church called Religious Science at the time. He didn't really want to. He just said, well, why don't people just take this back to their Lutheran churches, back to their Catholic churches, back to their mosques, or back to their temples? And there was a lot of pressure for him to start a church, which he did.
And with that said, with religion, so let's go back to the other question. Why do you think people get so down come holiday season, especially like Christmas?
Well, I think it's because of the media. You look at the advertisements and the trees and the toys and the jolliness and the having a good time, and it's like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, huh?
Yeah.
And it ain't there. And I think that those expectations, and you see what parents give their little kids now for Christmas. I've been to parents' house where you can't hardly get into the kids' room because of the toys. It's really commercialism, buying stuff. That's what Christmas has turned into, and this perfection of everything. I went to a lady's house. I had her do a little flower arrangement for me or something, and I went to pick it up. She lived in Stillwater. And I walked into her house, and it was beautifully decorated, and she was baking like ginger cookies.
Okay.
That's how the house smelled. And that's what I'm supposed to be doing, right? We kind of look at how other people are presenting, and as it turned out, there's lots of problems in that house, but you couldn't see them and you couldn't smell them.
No, totally. And I think me, even as a young child, my favorite movie around Christmas time was The Grinch.
Oh,
and I think that, just looking at it like a philosophy, it's very true. He looked at people and said, this is how this is supposed to be, and if I take away all these things, are they still going to be happy? If I take away, their food, and I take away their toys, and I take away all these things that look like they're going to be happy, are they still going to be happy? Or are they going to be miserable like me?
Right. Yeah.
And for most people, taking away those things, it would make them miserable,
Exactly. Yeah.
and for the philosophy in that movie is don't make that stuff make you miserable.
Yeah.
And
I have to admit that as the time goes on, I get less enthusiastic, and I guess I get my back up a little bit and I rebel. I don't do gifts anymore.
Sure.
I mean, if I'm my kids, I give my kids what I think is appropriate during the year. But, a lot of families, if they want something, they're going to go out and buy it. And I think that this gift stuff is just so overdone. It's ridiculous. Yes. Now, that's my judgment. And so, therefore, at Christmas time, my house doesn't even look so Christmassy anymore. Sure. And I'm torn. I'm torn a little bit about it because as a kid, Christmas was a fun time. Relatives, tree, get-togethers, good times, and we got gifts, but we got gifts. I got a new jacket because I needed a new jacket.
My dad turned 70 last year, and because of COVID, we did not do the big party. For the last 5 years, all that my father has asked for the family members for his birthday is to write what they appreciate, a poem, a letter or whatever. This year, since we are doing the birthday thing for him, he is asking us to do a party for him. And because of the party, he doesn't want gifts. He wants, if anybody is going to buy a gift, he wants us to buy a toy for Toys for Tots.
Nice. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I think that makes sense. And I have to, with Gary gone, and we had a ritual with his family, and we quit buying gifts there too. Nobody needed gifts. We'd do some sort of a, buy gifts and not put names on them and do that exchange. And but I think that I have to rethink again about tradition. What am I going to do now with my kids? And they're not steeped in it. They don't say, well, we have to be together and we have to do this. And they're really open. So I feel like I have some obligations to do some thinking and get some ideas to really make some meaningful memories.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with, like I said, I did that with the kids. I gave them each $20. We went down to Fleet Farm and we bought some toys.
Nice.
And then there was a Toys for Tot box at the hotel I was working at. We went and put them in there. Then I took them to Dairy Queen. But what are some ways you recommend for people who aren't happy to get through the holidays?
Well,
besides alcohol.
Well, one of the things that we rely on in the New Thought religion we're in, which is called Science of Mind, that's the philosophy we follow, is something we call spiritual mind treatment. So anytime we want to change something, we know we can take that to prayer. And I get a little bent out of shape sometimes when I hear people say, all we could do is pray. I'm thinking, all you could do is pray. You can pray. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And we are really steeped in this idea. And I think all of us here have experienced what that means. When we do an affirmative prayer, we call it spiritual mind treatment. It has 5 steps, and we acknowledge that there is but one power in the universe, and that power is a power for good. It's love, it's joy, it's harmony, it's all the good stuff.
Yep.
And and I call it the Big Bang energy.
Right.
And that Big Bang energy, and that's what I think it is. I think it's that very Big Bang energy that experiences life on this earth plane through its creation through each and every one of us. And that's why our words, our thoughts, our expectations, and our beliefs are powerful. So those are the first two steps, acknowledging that one power, and then acknowledging that that very power is within each and every one of us, so that when we declare something, we don't have supplemental prayers like, please forgive me for all my horrible sins. I'm a terrible person, but if you're in a good mood, please answer this prayer and give me this. We say, and because I know that power is within me, I speak these powerful words right here and now, that my relationship with my mother-in-law is healed, or that my father-in-law is getting the finest medical care he can get. He is at peace, and I'm just knowing the highest and best for him. And that's the third step. We just can't simply declare what it is we want. And these are the things that are powerful. Even as people are dealing with things like the holiday, they can do this kind of prayer. Even though in the past I've gone into a deep depression around Christmas time because I feel like I don't have good memories and everybody else is having a good time and I'm not having a good time. And I just speak my word right here and right now, that spirit of love just blossoms in my heart. And instead of having a negative experience over Christmas, I speak my word that I am open to all kinds of love, harmony, and joy. And then, so that's the third step, what we declare. And then the fourth step is Thanksgiving. I am grateful that this is the way the law works. My word spoken into law, and it is done unto me as I believe, just like Jesus said. And then the fifth step is simply release. I let these words go, and then we indeed try to let them go and not take them back, and just we say we kind of have planted a seed into the soil of what we call the law, and that to fertilize that and water it, we have positive thoughts. We see that end result. We see ourselves having a good time, looking forward to Christmas, enjoying the lights, enjoying our families.
Or deciding how we want to have that, whether it's our friends or with her family.
And with taking that, prayer affirmation, all that, how do you take that into the new year? Because I know a lot of people set unattainable New Year's resolutions that they can't. So how do we go into with this? And we're moving on to the next holiday, New Year's. Yeah. One of the things that was interesting, in 2005, I had the opportunity to go to Vietnam, and it was like a week later. I'm like, you guys are still celebrating New Year's? Because here it's like December 31st, we go out, we party, New Year's Day, then January 2nd, it's like, okay, New Year.
Right, yeah.
So how do you take that and go into the new year? And I found out that it's not good to set unattainable goals. Set something like, well, I want to eat better, or eat more healthy, or something like that. Set smaller goals that I know I can achieve. So what do you say about that?
Well, as a matter of fact, I just happened to be reading a book, and it's called Atomic Habits. And the gist of it is, don't set those unrealistic goals, but make some ideas for a systematic way, even starting really, really small. Just for, the next week, I'm going to be doing such and such. Make it attainable. So that's certainly one thing that I've been reading now. But what I like to do at the first of the year in our centers, we do these
Jerusalem Nights.
Yeah, we call it the White Stone celebration, and each of us is given a little small stone, and it's supposedly from a mine near Jerusalem or something. And we write down a word or a phrase on that rock that's going to be meaningful to us for the year. And it's something we can keep in front of us. Let's just say, for instance, I've been experiencing anxiety, and I haven't felt really at peace with my life. I might choose the word peace. I might choose the word education. I might, we can choose anything we want. And then we can carry that with us or put it in a place where we're going to see it. So it's something that can be ongoing. But what I really love about the first of the year is this is what I always do. I make a little circle pie chart. And I divide it up into different sections, maybe 6 different sections. And then I name them, like, how's my spiritual life doing? How are my relationships doing? How's my financial situation? How's my career going? How's my physical life? What am I doing for fun? Those kind of things. You make it. And so that's what I love to do. And I've done it for years. So I have a little notebook and I can go back and see how I did from year to year. And for many years, as we were talking about, when I was struggling with my religion and I was a Missouri Synod Lutheran, I was professing to believe something I didn't believe in. It was agony. I went to probably 7 years of really just trying so hard to find something that made sense to me. So, and I learned that little pie chart when I was a Missouri Synod Lutheran. I think I learned that there. But obviously it works for anybody and everybody. But for years, that spirituality part, I was just so stuck there. Couldn't even move on to anything else. Right. But now I feel pretty comfortable with my spiritual life. I feel blessed. I feel like that is my purpose right now, talking about a philosophy that I think can transform and enhance lives all over the world. And there's so many people who, maybe they are still going to church on a Sunday, but so many people aren't. People that, they were raised Catholic, they were raised Lutheran, but they just fell away. They don't have anything structured. They say, well, I'm not religious. Well, I don't like to think I'm religious either. I'm spiritual. I value spiritual life and what it can give me. So after I spent all that time on my spiritual little piece of the pie, now when I look at my piece of the pie, I look at things like, what am I doing for adventure? What am I doing for fun? Because I tend to have other things in order right now, but I do like to think about what else, and then think of things to do with my kids, my family, stuff like that. But that's my favorite tool for the beginning, because it's not something I'm just going to do on New Year's Eve. And then the other thing we've done, and I think it's really good, it's a little bit hokey, but when you get out the magazines and you get out the big piece of paper and then you cut it out and you make the little storyboard, this is what I want my life to look like. Honestly, that is so powerful. And it's, again, something you wake up in the morning and you see it. It's not just on January 1st, but it goes on. And I have talked to so many people who, over a period of time, they'll say, yeah, I did that, and I have achieved every single thing on that, and it's time for me to do a new, we call them storyboards. They're called
vision boards.
Vision boards.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I noticed last year, 2020, was that everybody was waiting for New Year's, because it was such a COVID hit and everybody was out of work and everybody was at home and everybody was like, I just can't wait for the new year to turn a new leaf, and it was just so, I could just feel it so all around me, everybody was just like, I just want the new year,
Little did we know we were having a kind of a rerun.
Yeah. Well, it's gotten a little bit better, but, here and there, but I know, 2020, December 31st of 2020, everybody was just waiting let's just bring in the new year. Let's put 2020 behind us. Yeah.
Start over.
and that's kind of the thing too with the New Year's. It is kind of like a start over. Like, okay, good, we did this, but how can I move on? How can I make better? But what do you have to say to people like, I want to get a better job, I want to do this, I want to do that, or I want to start this business, or I want to go here, or I want to travel, or I want to
Well, I think it's great because they've got something to set an intention for, and I would have to go back to that book. It's not always the thing to do is just to set that intention that seems so far away, but set some incremental things like to do this. I'm going to read a book about the area that I want to enter into. I'm going to start that book on January 5th, and I'm going to be done with that book at the end of January. That kind of thing. I do think it's good to have intentions and set some goals, and yet what I like to do, for instance, when I'm praying with people, and somebody will say, I really want you to pray with me because I really want a good job. I want to get a different job. Right now I'm not happy in my work. I'm not making enough money. And so, I will. Ernest Holmes said, be specific. Don't be afraid to be specific and ask for what you want. And yet, what we really like to do is when we do a prayer like this, is we like to boil it down to, if you get that new job, how is that going to make you feel?
Right.
And I like to bring them right back to those God qualities that I mentioned when I was talking about doing spiritual mind
Sure.
treatment. There's one power in the universe, and that power is that is a power of peace and love and joy and harmony. So when they're talking about a new job, I like to have them think about that. And I'll say something like, if you did have that job that you really like, how would you feel when you wake
Right.
up in the morning and put your feet on the floor? What would that feel like? And have them describe that feeling. Because when I was first studying to be a practitioner, they said there's two things you need in order to have a prayer manifest. One of them is an intention.
Sure.
So most of us, when we have a prayer, we know what the intention is. I want a job, whatever it is. And then the other thing is have some feelings around it.
Right.
And those feelings, we don't want anxiety, we don't
Right.
want fear, we don't want dread. We want to
Right.
have them really embrace the feelings that they will have when they have that good job, and get them to talk about that, because
Yep.
that's what manifests.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been doing this long enough to know that is exactly how it works.
And
It's
that can
powerful.
be with, with the holidays coming up, you can set that intent with, how do I want my holidays to look like? How do I want my car to look like? How do I want, my
Yes.
children to dress like,
Right. Yep.
You can do that with anything in life.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, Reverend Joanne, it was a great podcast, having a podcast. And we just want you all to know that, there are ways to get through the holidays. You don't have to be, down or depressed. There's definitely ways to get through it. And Reverend Joanne, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, they can get a hold of you through website. I know your Centers for Spiritual Living, Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. They can get a hold of you there. Is there another way?
Yeah, the website is like CSL.
CSL.
And then Minneapolis spelled out. Yeah.
Minneapolis spelled out.
Yeah. And I'm happy to take phone calls. I'm at 612-759-0870.
Okay, so if you got any questions, or you would like to work with Reverend Joanna, have a prayer, like you remember, set an intent, and she would be happy to work with you. Usually Rachel closes us out on this one, but we're going to let Reverend Joanne close us out.
Sounds good.
And am I saying a little prayer? Is that what I'm doing? Okay. We call this a benediction.
A benediction.
And I am grateful for this time with Chris and Rachel and whoever is listening to this podcast. Grateful for the opportunity to maybe plant a seed about a way of life that can be transformative. It can enhance the good life you have right now. It is all positive. It is all good, and it's available to you. And as I said, I welcome a telephone call or jump on our website, see what we have to offer. I'm grateful for this time, and I just speak my word of blessing on Rachel and on Chris and on this whole podcast and everybody that is listening right now. Special blessing for whatever in your life you might need right now. I speak my word and say, so it is.
So it
So it
is.
is.